I want to thank you once again for being here this week. And obviously, like I said, you people that are regulars, our pastor is not going to be here today. Well, she is here, but she's not going to be on camera today. And before I start, we're talking about different things. Pastor was talking to us before we went live, and and there was a lot of emotions, going through us, all of us that were here, and me personally. And we just want to thank God today for really everything that He has done. I mean, He has done a lot, and we've seen miracles happen. We've seen a lot of things happen, and that He's doing and He's about to do. And we just want to take the time today to acknowledge that God is in control of our lives, of everything we do. So we need to acknowledge that, and we just want to give Him the thanks today. And if Pastor decides to say anything, she's not going to be on camera, but she can say it. But I just thank God that she's here today.
Amen.
That she's here today, and one of the things that she was talking about, support, and it does make a world of difference to me when I have to do this, that she's here by my side, because I have a lot of respect for her ministry and everything, and I just, for her to entrust somebody and trust me to in her ministry, that says a lot to me. And obviously I thank God for it. And I just want to do everything that I can to support her and everything in every way, shape, or form. And if this is one of the ways today, I'm willing to do it.
There's certain songs in your life that really touch your mind and you think about it. And I think about the King of all glory and how my greatest desire is to be with Him.
That's right.
I've just been a week, I guess tomorrow afternoon, out of the hospital, and I told Him I would sit here and contribute whatever I felt led to do. I know looking at Julian's face and getting my voice has got to be unique in itself. I want to bring a couple of things up, and I was thinking about the surgery I just went through. The surgery was total reconstructive surgery. The fall that I had taken back in February was really bad and messed me up very severely. I don't think I fully, completely understood this. The scripture tells me that this is the day that the Lord has made, and
That's right.
that we're to rejoice this day of rest in Him and in our family. I don't get that many opportunities to see off everybody, whether you're on what side of the border. But you're always in my mind as a complete visual. Some of you quite wacky to the others. Are we going, Mike? Josh. Okay, thank you. I don't know that you can see it, but this is the residual of what I've gone through in the hospital. This is after almost 2 weeks, I guess a week and a day. When I went in for reconstructive surgery, it wasn't an elective surgery, it was an emergency. And as many of you know, the intense pain associated with this waiting period has been just unfathomable. Thinking that somehow you were going to make it through each and every hour to the minute. I never really realized how much danger or how much damage had been done. Even while looking at the x-rays and the MRI, all the different tests, is still never wrapped around my mind. And what I would like to make reference to is this way. In your life, it's gone completely as unexpected as possible. You maybe didn't anticipate to be walking down the roads that you've walked, meeting the heartache that you've met, and yet you find yourself in that situation extremely helpless. As we were talking before service, and I had my little mini service before my actual going live, because I do have two different sides of the border where two church locations are. And sometimes a pastor just needs to talk to the people that they pastor.
That's right.
As I was thinking about what all they had done, and I'm doing this so spontaneous that unfortunately, Stacy, you're going to get dragged right in here, whether you intended to or not. As they were explaining to me that I was more focused on keeping my blood sugar under control so they could proceed with the surgery, that's where all my entire observation was focused on. But Stacy began to tell me some of the stuff that they did to me. There was a temporary clear plastic shield across the surgery because they didn't use they used glue and not the staples, if I'm correct. And I kept wondering why it seemed like I was laying on a rail. And I kept asking them to please adjust my covers because something was making me feel like I was on the edge. And I was reassured constantly that it wasn't there. So, Stacy, I want you to go into a little bit of depth about what they did to me. And I'm going to bring that into a spiritual level.
It was, right now they take out your part of your spine and the bones in your spine and leave a little hollow, but they do a bone graft. And so until that bone graft adhere to her body and become one solid piece, she's got screws and nuts, bolts, and she's updated on her oil change. Until that time is done, then it'll all fuse together. But right now it's just, kind of a hollow, and it's got the gel-like substance in there. And so that's basically, and she's probably got like a 6-inch, he did an excellent job as far as stitching, 6-inch stitch cut across the bottom of her back. So he was so sincere. He said, now that she's got this done, basically, this is paraphrase, but she's ready to go to Israel. Let's get her well enough to go to Israel, get her strong enough to go to Israel. So I think that that's amazing because they know her heart that it was on Israel. And I know the extreme pain that they say in the hospital to get rest, and we know that's a lot because they were coming every 45 minutes to an hour. So so there was actually having a hard time getting rest and be on pain medication because the pain medication makes you groggy and sleepy, but you can't go to sleep because they're coming and poking and prodding. And, we appreciate it, to make sure that the patient's well and healthy, breathing and all that. But, it's kind of hard. So, and I think the first 2 weeks, we've been on a week now. The first 2 weeks would probably be a lot of adjustment, knowing what you can do and what makes it easier to get out of bed and, roll over. But I think because of the period of time that she was in pain since February and then recently just got the surgery, that made it a little hard, but the walking has done some, and she's doing well. And everybody's prayers from Julian and Sharon and Judith and all of them, Catherine and everyone's prayers that have gone up and in our own church and out there on social media and everything. We appreciate everybody's prayers. So we just thank God that she is alive and we're moving forward and she's getting stronger, better, just dealing with the pain. It comes and it comes. So finding a comfortable position for her to be in. So I thank God for that. And, we're here and she's here. And I told her, she could pretty much, hear church from her bedroom if she wanted to. So, but she chose to be here. There's very, very seldom, maybe hardly ever. Even when she was in the hospital this past Saturday and was groggy and kind of in and out, she seen, I had the iPad and showed her, that was Julian, and it was just kind of an in and out thing. But, she tries to not miss a Sabbath service. Right. And, most pastors would just say, oh, I need 6 weeks to 6 months to recuperate, and then I'll get back to pastoring. So she's definitely strong-willed and perseverance. So,
did you realize the depth of the surgery that they had done? Did either one of you?
I think in my case, from watching on, I watch kind of weird, so weird. I watch some of the videos and I watch some of the things that people went through that had the same exact. But you kind of, in her case, have to watch a lot of them because she had one, and then she had, another issue that she was getting taken care of with her back, and then another issue. So it was like 3 different procedures. But he was he was in there because he originally told us 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours. And I think it was about 3 to 4, something like that, 3 to 4. It was, but, those nerves was definitely being pinched and cramped and everything. And he said, she's good, So I knew the extenuating circumstance of her being under those nerves being pinched for so long, does take a toll on the body. So.
Did you not find it kind of interesting whenever the neurologist, I believe it was, that came in and said they're going to have probes in my head and in my feet?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That part I did not see on YouTube or Google. But they did put probes from the front to the back to the top to the bottom, basically to find all the nerves to make sure that they are responding to at the same time the surgery's going on. They were doing it exactly the same time. And they would, if there was a part that he was in that he doesn't need to be in, they would tell him no, is basically what he was doing. They were going to do. Tell him no, you need to find a different spot, or no, don't go to that area or whatever, to try to keep a person from being paralyzed. So they were, to me, I think they were an excellent group of people. They even sent a card personally,
yes.
Each of the people who helped her, which that was the first time ever I've ever seen that. Very engageable people, with people and their patients. So I think that, and we met a lot of wonderful people, heard a lot of wonderful stories, and, met some characters, Bruce. So, but I think it was, to me, was a testimony, the way that the staff was and the way how they did the surgery, and they making sure, because I'm pretty sure Dr. Calawatz, if y'all ever need a best surgeon for spine.
Craig C. Calawatz.
Craig C. Calawatz in Dallas. I'm pretty sure he was probably in there telling about the story about you, and, because he's a talker. So he's probably telling, she needs to get to Israel. And that's probably put a lot of pressure on him, I'm sure, making sure that he knows that she has a big responsibility, and a lot of people that are surrounding her, a lot of people that she tends to and nurture and, are involved in their lives. So he knew, I think, that he better make sure he didn't mess up. So.
Don't go anywhere yet. I also want to talk about how they reconnected those. And I want to make this in a relationship to your relationship with God. When you're a shipwreck, or you're total wreck, spiritually or naturally, you don't know what all went wrong on the internal. Mm-hmm. I have a friend, we call him Mike 48. I've known him for 12 years, and in his journey, he's been on shipwreck. And yet the answer to everything that he needed was always right there if he would have reached out just to talk to me. We need to understand that when our lives are out of control, the only one who can get us in control is the person that God puts in your life to encourage you, give you positive reaction, and sometimes even negative. Mm-hmm. I have an amazing relationship with my son, and many of you hear me make reference to him. I've never known a baby that loved as intently as he did. And when I thought about his little reckless life and how he was not given any hope when we came into this life, I had no hope of ever seeing the fulfillment of natural, and I really didn't feel like I was ever worthy of anything that was spiritual. But the day that I found out I was going to have this baby, something sparked up inside of me, a glimmer of hope a possibility. And I can remember a wise preacher once saying to me, I would like one day for you to be married and have children, because there's no perfect love like that of a child to their parent. Unfortunately, many of us are not us, because I'm not included in that bucket, but many people in this world have totally disregarded the importance of that. And as Stacy did the research and she did the background and tried to find out, she's the one who found my surgeon, and she's the one who guided everything. And I really say completely that under the direction of God, she made sure that I was put in the right hands of the person that will ensure that I'm ready to make this last journey.
Sure.
But in relationship to spiritual, when you first come to God, you don't know nothing about him.
That's right.
You don't know nothing about what you're supposed to do or not to do. And if you don't have the loving, nurturing experience of a parent or a mentor that will stand by you, you'll find yourself feeling shiftless. So when I found out I was going to have this baby boy, my Mr. JD, I can never forget. At that time, I told my husband I wanted 2 boys. And he said, why don't you want a boy and a girl? And I said, no, I want 2 boys because I want those 2 boys to remind me of you. If something should ever happen to you, then I can see you in them. And of course, my first baby was a boy. I don't believe there was ever a more gentle, loving boy as that baby was. But he had to fight for every step and every breath that he breathed. I had had emergency cesarean, and my son was not supposed to live. But I wouldn't leave his side. I couldn't. I could not be away even for the bathroom or get something to eat in fear that he might need me and I wouldn't be there. When I think back, that when I gave birth to my oldest son, there was a life, hope, and a dream that was instilled in me that I would pursue on and be the best parent I could ever be. Never expecting to one day to be a pastor and do what I'm now doing, but just to be the best mama in the world. And I never wanted my boys to ever say that they were ashamed of their mother. All I wanted them to see was their mom, who was not a hypocrite, that lived what they saw all the time. Eventually, when I became a pastor, they'd seen me live this life since the day they were born. So it was not some adjustment for them. We had get ourselves, either through a course of time or accidents, to a physical situation that throws us off all the way around. I've always said, in order to address the spiritual, address the physical. You need the proper food, nutrients, everything, in order to bring a balance into your life. Lesson 1 of life. Find the individual that is a mentor to you. Reading the Bible is great. It's wonderful. But it does not give the natural connection that you need. And to find that spiritual individual that you can find comfort in and secure, talk to, balance things off, there's nothing greater. But don't just pick anyone to be in charge of your life or to help you through life. Pick someone who you know has stayed the course, has lived this life, has never steered you wrong and never wants to see you destroyed. If their purpose is for self-gain, you don't need them as an example, but instead ask God to give you an example. Pattern yourself after that. I don't like it, Julian, when people say to me, let's agree to disagree. That's their spineless way of saying, let's compromise.
That's right.
I don't want you to get mad at me for my opinion. So I'm going to give you a statement, and I'm going to allow you to interject. You're not like I control you, but this statement came up, and you and I had made discussion of it before in past. I know who God is.
Mm-hmm.
He is not Jesus Christ. I know the depth of God, and I know the place that he wants to take you personally.
That's right.
And when somebody who wants to come up to me, who have served God for soon to be 53 years, and want to correct me on who I know he is, to tell you something that is false enrages me.
Mm-hmm.
When I've had people who've been in my presence before have felt the mighty anointing of God and come out and say, let's agree to disagree. In other words, to me, you're saying, let's compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not have any uncomfortable ground. We've made the statement before in past. When you come to this point in this church, this is either your point to progress on and establish an extremely strong relationship with God, or it's your exit to eternal damnation. There's no third choice. When you hear that statement, Julian, how does it make you feel? Let's agree to disagree.
To me, I mean, when it was made to you, my deal is that it means that person doesn't believe in your ministry.
That's right.
That's what they're saying. Because if you have come to this place and you experience God, experience the presence of God and everything, to me, you know, anything that I could, you know, obviously I've been here a long time, but when I first came, I actually did feel the presence of God.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since then, you know, pastor has had the anointing of God. So whenever anybody will try to tell me different or this, whatever, you know, especially back in the day about the women in the ministry, I was like, you know what? If this is wrong, then I'll be wrong. Because this cannot be wrong when I have actually felt God. It cannot be wrong. So for me, when people say that kind of stuff, is that they're really not, first of all, they're not really sure what they believe in.
That's right.
They're just wondering. So for them to tell you that, for you personally, when they know your lifestyle, you know, what the life that you live, your ministry and everything, for them to tell you that, to me, it's not only disrespectful, but it means that, okay, well, you know, I believe in some of the things you would say, but not all of it, you know, so to speak. And I have no patience for that, really. I mean, especially with somebody that has actually experienced God and everything in your ministry. So I have no patience for that. I get enraged. I get, you know, this sort of protective thing about me, that I want to protect this ministry. I want to protect God. I want to protect you. So to me, I can't deal with that kind of stuff.
The thing that enrages me is I didn't give myself this anointing.
That's right.
God gave it. I am who I am because that's who God called me to be. I'm not in competition with you or the next person. But I'm just going to put it out here and let it go where it goes, okay? It's just no other place about it. I love you, Mike. But you've allowed your tongue to cross God. You've allowed your statements to put you against God. Because when you had the opportunity to revere his presence, instead you made mockery. Instead of embracing God trying to give you more truth, you ran from it. You refused to watch the services, even though you were only short distance from where I was in Mexico. Your party life and the life you chose was more important. Even to the point that you kept telling me you didn't believe who God is. Never say that to me again. I would rather never hear from you than for you to ever say that Jesus is God when he is not. For you to raise your hand against the Almighty, for you to do that, let you be destroyed to the demons that have overtaken your mind. I have no fear of you, but I will respect God and will honor him every moment of my life. And to me, if you don't, as an individual, whatever your name may be and wherever you may be, you better find a place and fall down upon your face and beg for God's mercy. I remember one of the coldest and ugly statements that were made out of your mouth was when you said, I didn't have a place to bury my son. I didn't have the money to bury my son. And your suggestion was for me to go dig up a hole out in the middle of nowhere and dump his body in it. That's just unbelievable. How dare you have such lack of love and compassion for the servant of God's Son. You had money, you had power, you had prestige. You had the ability to fly all over and go wherever you needed to go. But you chose to do it your way. How's that going for you right now? I remember saying, I never heard such cruelty come out of someone's mouth, and someone tried to explain away the stupidity. But yet I'd seen the trips that you took and the money and the booze and life that you'd lived, and yet the servant of a living God is seeing her son in the situation with no way to bury him, no way to reach out and do anything for him. My church is poor. Didn't have a lot of money, but for what they did, they gave 110%. But you know what God did that was so amazing? He sent a mechanic that we'd known over the years, and when I approached him, his name's Salvador. If you're ever in Jocotepec, Mexico, he may not be a good mechanic, but he's a good man. I went to him and told him I had 24 hours to bury my son in, or they were going to take his body and not give it back to me for 10 years. I had no family standing there with me. Not a parent, not an uncle, not an aunt, not a cousin, not even my own children. My daughters-in-law were as cold as the demons that they are from hell. But Salvador called me to his place of business. And he said, your family is my family. And him and his wife, Rebecca, came over and told me, we want you to be a part of our family burial plot. My first thought was, I'm not sure exactly what this is going to cost me. I don't have that kind of money. I live on Social Security, a fixed income. My church was doing all they could, but they're not any more well off than I am. We did find out that a few $100s will make 1,000. Your way didn't say thousands to make 1,000, or $20 will eventually make 50. It was from the heart. And I'd been told this cold, insensitive, demonic attack from what I considered at one point not necessarily a friend, but an acquaintance, who I owe nothing to. We stayed in his house but paid our way. He never did anything for us. Even when I was moving the stuffs down, he took advantage of telling me he was going to set up a video shoot. I spent a lot of money to go down and make a music video for him, and then reneged. We shot the wit, we sent people down and all of this, but never a dime was given toward our effort. Now I'm standing here. Does it sound a surprise that my son is dead? I don't know why I'm doing this, Julian, but I just got to put it out here. And when Rebecca and Salvador set me down at a little table, they said, you're our family now. And we give you a place to bury your son. I was in a state of, I can't believe this. someone who knew absolutely nothing about who I was and my ministry, stepped forward. And I tried to pay him. And I believe you were there, weren't you, Julie, when all this happened? You and Stacy. What did you receive from his attitude towards this?
For somebody that really didn't know you, and for him to, for them, the couple, for them to offer that to me, it's a reverence, it's a love that you hardly ever find out there now. And I mean, obviously, all of us were real thankful that he did what he did, or they did what they did, because, yeah, we were at a loss right there when all of that was going on, because everything happened so fast, and we had to make decisions right away with the burial and everything, and we just were at a loss. But when obviously God intervened, he put that in their heart for them to do that, and to me that was awesome, the way they came through. I mean, when nobody could, like you're saying, when that other person, the other people, the acquaintances that you had over there, they had money, they could have done it, they could have done something in whatever right away, but they didn't. But it takes genuine people like that for them to actually go out of their way to do such stuff like that.
When Salvador and Rebecca had me sign the papers for me to include my family into their family crypt, it's a big grave, it's huge. And he said to me, now don't you forget, I forgot how many slots left, so anytime you guys need one, you've got it. You're our family. I saw the genuine love of that man and that woman who didn't know God, but knew my mother and knew me. And he had only had the privilege to meet Chris a short time before Chris was gone. And I remember him telling my grandson, I was honored to meet your dad. He was quite a man. And I thought of all the millionaires that I've known, and their their coldness. Let you be cursed. Let you go where you need to go. You see, when you go against the prophetess of God, that's the last thing you should have ever done. So from this point forward, I want to hear from none of those people. And therefore, I want all of their numbers blocked. Stacy, make sure it's all blocked. You cannot stand for the service of God, the servant of God, and in your cold and inhumane way, you call for me to get you off of drugs and alcohol. You got yourself on it. This preacher will not go a step further to get you off of it. You felt God's presence multiple times, but you thought you were God. That's what deception does to you. It frays your mind. It destroys your being. So I felt that when you look at what's right, stand for what is right. All these people that are out there living their party life, their insane life, they don't care about you. They care about how they destroy you. You take an old mama as myself. And what children I have left, whether you're surrogate, adopted, or just incorporated, you're still a part. As long as I breathe, I will stand beside you. So I wanted to clear the air on that. I know that it troubled many of you, and the audacity for somebody, that same person last night, to refer to me as Cheryl. I thought, how dare you? Scripture says, give honor to whom honor is due, and I'm not Cheryl to you, and you made a mockery of my family. I'm done. Let you find your way, wherever that might be, but it will not be with us, and it will not be in Israel. I am going to Israel. If I've got to sell every single stitch of stuff I've got, I'm going. And I'm going to bring his spirit to the world, because it's only right that they know who he is. But Julian, I've done my little interjection, but now let's do some wise teaching out of your hands, okay?
I got a little skit for you. I'm sure most of you, they're probably my age or maybe a little bit younger or older, have ever climbed a rope before. And when you climb on a rope, obviously the kids nowadays they don't do that. They stay on
They
their
don't know what
phones.
it is.
They don't know where they probably don't know where it is, but they stay on their phones. But when if you ever climb the rope, you know that going up that rope, it's first couple of pulls that's fine, but as you get going up, once your weight is lifted off the ground, it's not so that easy anymore. And the higher you go, the harder it gets. Because you start getting slippery and all that. And I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of people, that actually do climb, they put knots in it.
Okay.
Just to put knots. And when you put a knot in that rope, obviously you can have more grip on it. Have more grip on it, and you can actually go better at it. You can go higher and all that, because there's no slipperiness there. It's not slippery. You have something to hold on to. Well, this right here is your spiritual walk with God. It's when you first come to God, you're there, the rope is there, you start your walk with God. And the knot right here, this is when you really make a dedication to God. This is your prayer. This is your dedication to God. That's why the walk, it becomes easier with that knot. When you have that dedication, that prayer, that communication with God, it becomes easier as you go. But obviously, when the devil starts seeing that you're making those knots, the more knots you make, then you start looking at, whoa, okay, what's going on there?
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's for real. That person's for real. I gotta start doing something about it, because he's figured out that this right here is gonna get you closer to God.
Okay.
So what does he do? See, he doesn't attack the rope bites, because the rope is so strong that you won't be able to pull it apart. So what he'll do is that he'll start taking it apart, little by little strand by strand. He'll bring you worries. He'll bring you friends that will pull you away from that walk with God. Even family members will come to you and try to pull you away from that walk with God. And so on and so on. He becomes, he's getting you each and every time. He's getting you. When all that is, at the end, you become afraid not.
Right.
He has taken you apart. Your life is in shambles because you allowed him to take the rope apart. Little by little, see, like I said, he doesn't attack you all at once because he knows he can break through that. So he'll take it apart little by little until your life becomes this. But as long as you have that little one strength that you can hardly see,
thank you, Lord.
that's all it takes. Because just you do having faith of that mustard, the size of the mustard seed, this little strand can turn your life around if you grab a hold of God.
That's right.
And start building that knot. Those knots keep pulling and pulling and pulling you up until one day you will reach your end. You'll be with him.
That's right.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But we can now allow him to start taking our life apart. Always stay on the knots. Keep making knots all throughout your life. And you'll get there.
That's right.
I promise you will. So let's keep building. Keep going up the rope. Keep making those knots. And he'll see us through.
That's right.
You know, one of the wise person told me this once. Well, actually told. lost it. Hold on. It said that wise person told us that whenever you felt God, always go back to the place where you went off the road. Go back to it and get back on the road. And obviously that wise person is our pastor. She told us a couple of months back. So if you have become this, you'll have become this. Get back to where you were, where you got off, and get back on again.
To me, that's so much a part of my life. I would never give up. And when I saw you tying those knots, I thought, how many knots have I tied in my life? And then I think about all the techniques of how they'll have you wrap around your leg so you can keep scooting on up. One of the things that I loved to do as a young person was to climb a tree. I don't know why I felt like if I could climb up something tall, I was invincible, but I did. I thought, wow, I'm going to climb to the top of that tree. I shared this, and I want to tie it into what Julian just said. From the time I was a little girl, I would go out, and my brothers and I would climb up the biggest tree at that time we thought there was. Probably wasn't but just a few feet off the ground, but it was huge to us. And we would always take a rope and take on that tree and swing down. Now, Stacy, you can prepare yourself for this. You know what I'm fixing to say. And I was so much like the boys. I was going to do everything the boys could do. I was going to do it better. If they could climb a tree, I was going to climb it higher. If they could swing from a rope, I'm going to swing it better. I just had that spirit of competition between me and my two brothers. That's all we had. So I got myself prepared one day, and I was going to show them how Tarzan really swung. Now, you got to keep in mind, that's back when TV was very first existence, and getting 1 or 2 channels is all you could get. And I would let out my little yell for Tarzan to show them how good I was. I took off that day and left my underwear in the top of that tree. I swung down to the bottom of that tree, and I went home fast. And I was hoping they didn't see that flag wave was not a sign of surrender, but it was in time I was in trouble. When you are living this life, you're going to have to realize that not everything is perfect. In my mind, I had this accomplished. I was going to show my brothers that I was just as good or better than they were. And in fact, I'm not even sure they even knew I left my flag hanging in the wind. When I got a little older, I still didn't get over this thing about climbing a tree. Grandma and Grandpa had this huge tree in their front yard, and so many times I wished I had taken a picture of it. It was a pine tree, and if anybody knows about pine trees, they are sticky, sappy messes. They were just bad. And I told my grandpa, I want to climb that tree. I found out there were times I wanted to do something that the wisdom of the elders would have been best heeded. But before I get to the tree, I had this desire to climb on top of the roof of my grandpa's garage. And I'd say, Grandpa, can I get on top of the roof? No, Sherry Lynn, you don't need to be getting up on that roof. Come on, please, Grandpa, please let me get on that roof. I think Grandpa got so tired of hearing me, and sometimes I think the Lord looks at us this way. We're going to beg him and plead and try to coerce and get what we want. And so finally my grandpa said, go ahead, Sherry Lynn, you get up on that roof if you want to. So I was so proud of myself, I was going to climb up that. So I got to the edge of the garage. I put my hand underneath the edge of the garage, not realizing I just put it in a hand of a bee's nest. And when I looked and saw them bees coming, I jumped off of that ladder and I went running so fast. I passed my grandma and grandpa that was sitting in the yard, cleared out, and my grandpa was hollering, you left the bees behind a long time ago. But my fear just kept me putting one foot in front of the other. I was not going to be putting up with them bees. Well, you think from that point when my grandpa told me not to do something that he had the words of wisdom. But no, that didn't stop me. So when I wanted to climb that old tree, Grandpa got tired of asking him. I think he knew that every time I got my mind set at things, he might as well just say yes because it was hopeless. I was going to find out one way or the other. I went climbing that old pine tree. I'd get up there and just keep looking at the top, and I'm excited about the progress. I felt like Jacob's ladder. You know, the story of Jacob's ladder. He's got climbing up this spiritual ladder while I'm climbing up this spiritual tree, although my life at that point had nothing to do with spirituality. And as I get up there, all of a sudden it hits on me, I don't know how to get down from here. So I start screaming for help. I'm up here. There's nobody up there. The only thing left is a real small limb, and I'm going to get a hold of that and come crashing. I'm talking about, it was tall. It was every bit of 20 feet tall. It was tall. And my grandpa hollered at me, "You got yourself up there, now get yourself down." What comforting words. How many times do we get ourselves into a spiritual bind and we blame God?
That's right.
And then we ask him to pull us out of it. That surely he could perform some miracle, you know. I wouldn't have to climb down. And my grandpa was no comfort whatsoever. The only thing I remember him saying to me was, "Sherry Lynn, don't you dare look down." And I thought, I got to go down, and how am I going to not look down? But what he was telling me, if I kept my eyes straight ahead and felt my way down, I would get out of the mess that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I used that a few times in my life. And when I looked at that rope that Julian has there, and I thought about the time I swung off that tree and left my flag a-waving. And the other times I took things on, and in my mind they worked out really good. But in actuality, they were far from any good. When you start your walk for God, quit trying to make yourself perfect. Serve him moment by moment at the best of your ability. And stop working and worrying about your 1-year plan, your 5-year plan, or whatever. And I can reassure you, you'll make progress. And the question is, what are you trying to progress to? I live my life that I could be the best person, the best leader I could possibly be. I haven't made it there yet. I'm doing it very good, step by step, inch by inch in some cases. But every one of you remember this. It's when you decide not to continue climbing up that rope that your spiritual downfall is going to come.
Okay.
Always pursue to go forward, and God will always give you the strength and knowledge to know how to do that.
That's right.
Julian, you've been good. Great. I can't reassure you I'll be dressed next Saturday either. I'm in a brace here and enduring, but there's one thing I can never say enough is that I love God.
That's right.
And to me, when somebody makes an excuse to not go to church, that's a lousy thing. Or to not watch it online. Maybe you don't have a church available, but watch it online. Learn constantly and grow in the Lord, and he will never, ever disappoint you. Well, as everybody knows, this is the Sabbath, the day that the Lord has made and set aside for us to honor him. I admonish you to do exactly that. Put him first and foremost, and put your family right there close to your heart, and everything will always work out in the long run. God bless you.